Imagine, if you will, a meticulously crafted, incredibly intricate antique grandfather clock,
Okay, I'm picturing it.
right? So it's this masterpiece. Thousands of tiny, perfectly machined brass gears, tightly coiled springs, a heavy swinging pendulum, all enclosed in this beautiful mahogany and glass case.
Sounds expensive.
Oh, absolutely. But now, imagine someone drops a live hand grenade right into the center of the mechanism.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you have this sudden, violent, catastrophic explosion. Wood, glass, brass, steel. It's all instantly vaporized or just sent flying outward in absolutely every
It's a
direction.
total devastation.
Exactly. It's a chaotic storm of shrapnel tumbling and spinning blindly into the void.
Right.
Now imagine you set up a camera, right?
Mhm.
And you watch all of that flying, burning shrapnel for an incredibly long time, like millions of years,
Uh-huh.
billions of years even. Would you ever, in a billion years, expect those tumbling gears and springs and shards of glass to eventually, like, curve their trajectories, perfectly reassemble themselves midair, and lock back into place?
To, like, resume ticking. Yeah.
Exactly. In time, down to the absolute microsecond.
I mean, no. It's a completely absurd premise.
Right.
Yeah, we instinctively know that an explosion is the ultimate expression of chaos. I mean, it is the literal definition of entropy.
It's the permanent, irreversible separation of parts.
Exactly. It
Okay.
is the end of order. Once that grenade goes off, the clock is gone forever. You just have debris.
Right. Because things moving away from a central explosion, they don't just decide to turn around, piece themselves back together, and start telling time again.
No, they definitely don't.
But what if I told you that when we look up at the night sky right now, using the absolute most advanced, high-precision mathematical models ever created by human beings,
Okay.
we might not be seeing the scattered shrapnel of an ancient explosion?
Wait, really?
Yeah. What if, instead, the data suggests we are looking at the perfectly interlocked gears of a flawless, non-moving clock?
That is a wild claim.
It is. Welcome to the Deep Dive. And today, we are going to take a deep dive into the death of the Big Bang Theory. Yes, you heard me correctly. For everyone listening, we are jumping straight into a massive reality-bending question today.
We really are.
What if the foundational theory of our entire universe, the very thing taught in every single physics classroom on Earth, is completely mathematically wrong?
It is a staggering premise. Truly, it's the kind of statement that makes you want to immediately roll your eyes and just dismiss it entirely.
Oh, totally. It sounds crazy at first.
Right. And I want to be very clear with you, the listener, right from the outset here. As your guides today, we are not taking sides.
Absolutely not.
We are not here to endorse the destruction of standard cosmology, nor are we here to blindly defend the mainstream narrative just because it's, comfortable.
We're just looking at the documents.
Exactly. Our job, our strict mission for this deep dive, is simply to impartially unpack the incredible arguments, the mathematical paradoxes, and the highly detailed data presented in the stack of source documents we have right in front of us.
And I really want to stress, for you listening at home, these aren't just fringe blog posts or, like, late-night forum rants.
No, not at all.
We are looking at comprehensive AI calculations, extremely precise astronomical charts, and institutional technical validation reports.
And crucially, they are rooted in the mainstream scientific community's own data.
That is the most fascinating part of all of this. Whether you are a hardcore astronomy buff with a high-end telescope in your backyard, or just someone who's, fiercely curious about the nature of reality.
Oh, yeah, it's probably why you're here.
Right. I promise you this deep dive is going to completely reframe how you look up at the night sky.
It really will.
We are looking at what the sources describe as a mathematical kill shot to the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, kill shot, yeah.
And the wildest part is that this kill shot isn't coming from some newly discovered, highly controversial telescope. It is built entirely on the mainstream scientific community's own high-precision math.
Which is the crazy part.
We are talking about data pulled from an open-source celestial engine called Stellarium.
Right, Stellarium.
Yeah, cross-referenced with standard cosmological models to analyze a massive, nearly 50,000-year alignment anomaly.
An anomaly that challenges absolutely everything we think we know about how the universe actually moves.
It challenges the very mechanics of reality. But before we get to the anomaly itself, we need to understand the baseline.
Yeah, we have to look at the blueprint of the universe as it's currently understood by mainstream science.
According to the AI documents in our stack, the Big Bang, which is the standard model that serves as the foundation of modern astrophysics, is fundamentally described as an explosion of unimaginable scale.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack that standard model first, because unimaginable scale almost feels like a huge understatement when you actually look at the numbers in these sources.
Oh, the numbers are absurd.
They really are. The Big Bang posits that all matter, all energy, the literal fabric of space and time itself originated from a single, infinitely dense point. A singularity.
And then it rapidly expanded outward. It exploded.
Exactly. And when the sources say everything, they provide a breakdown to help us conceptualize the sheer mass we are talking about.
Which is helpful because it's hard to picture.
According to the data, if you want the grand total of everything in the observable universe, ordinary matter, dark matter, and dark energy expressed as a mass equivalent.
Right. So weighing it all.
Yeah, the number is 3.1 times 10 to the power of 54 kilograms.
To put that into perspective, because human brains simply aren't wired to comprehend a number that large,
Not even close.
that is a 31 followed by 53 zeros.
I'm just staring at that number written out in the source documents right now, and it's mind-numbing.
That's a lot of zeros.
Just to break it down further for you, the source outlines that ordinary matter, the stuff that actually interacts with light, the stuff that makes up you, me, the Earth, the planets, the glowing stars, the galaxies.
Stuff we can actually see.
Exactly. That only accounts for about 5% of this total mass energy budget.
Just 5%.
And that alone is roughly 150 octodecillion kilograms. That's a 15 followed by 52 zeros.
Wow.
Then you have dark matter, this invisible scaffolding that exerts gravitational pull, making up roughly 27%. That's an 85 followed by 52 zeros in kilograms.
Right, the invisible glue.
Yeah. And finally, dark energy, the mysterious force that is supposedly driving the accelerated expansion of the universe, pushing everything apart.
That makes up a whopping 68%.
Represented as a 21 followed by 53 zeros. I mean, it's almost impossible to truly fathom that amount of mass and energy violently tearing outward from a single point.
It is entirely beyond human scale, but what is critical here isn't just the size of the number.
What is it then?
It's the conceptual framework that this mass and its origin story actually creates. The AI analysis in our sources clearly defines this entire framework as a system of linear chaos.
Linear chaos.
Yes, it is a system governed by entropy, decay, and separation. The Big Bang sent all of this matter, to use the source's exact word, stumbling in all directions.
Stumbling, that's a great word for it.
It really is. It created a vacuum of expanding space where everything is moving at different speeds, on varying trajectories, riding on wobbling planets inside drifting solar systems.
I try to visualize this using that grenade analogy we started with. In an explosion of that magnitude, the pieces are flying apart.
They have to be.
The trajectories are fundamentally linear over the grand scale. They are moving away from the center and they're moving away from each other.
Exactly.
In a system governed by linear chaos, things are never meant to return to their starting points. Shrapnel doesn't, orbit back and put the grenade back together.
No, it just keeps going.
The universe, under the Big Bang model, is a one-way trip into infinite darkness and separation.
That is the consensus view.
Yeah.
But the source documents present a massive problem for this view, and they use a specific computational tool to expose it.
Right.
Now, if we are going to use a piece of software to claim that the fundamental model of the universe is mathematically flawed, we have to put that software under a microscope.
We absolutely do. Because my immediate reaction, and probably the reaction of anyone listening to this right now, is profound skepticism.
Of course.
I hear, we used a celestial engine to disprove the Big Bang, and my brain immediately says, okay, you used a computer program, code has bugs.
Code has rounding errors.
Exactly. Maybe the software just has a glitch, or maybe the programmers just put in a loop to save processing power when simulating tens of thousands of years.
It's a fair assumption.
Why should I care what a piece of open source software says about the physical universe?
Yeah.
We need to know that Stellarium isn't just a fancy video game or like a desktop planetarium that cuts corners.
That is the exact right question to ask, and the sources anticipate this skepticism completely.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. They provide a highly detailed technical validation report for the Stellarium engine to address exactly that concern.
Okay, good. Let's look at that.
This report explicitly states that in the domains of high-stakes astrophysical research and aerospace engineering, the distinction between what they call artistic visualizations and precision computational models is foundational.
Meaning They don't mess around.
Right. The validation report insists that Stellarium is not an aesthetic approximation. It doesn't just paint a pretty picture of the sky.
So it's not a screensaver.
No, it is a rigorous, high-fidelity instrument. It calculates real-time Newtonian mechanics and latency-free coordinate transformations for professional, institutional data analysis.
Okay, but it's open source, right? I mean, anyone can look at the code. It operates under the GNU General Public License. Doesn't that make it, I don't know, less official than some proprietary supercomputer program locked in a basement somewhere?
Actually, the report argues the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah. It notes that this open source architecture is a critical factor for its institutional adoption. It ensures continuous, global, peer-reviewed transparency.
Oh, I see. So there are lots of eyes on it.
Millions. If there were a rounding error or a lazy loop built into the code to save memory, the global community of astrophysicists who audit the engine's internal logic would have flagged it immediately.
Because they use it for their own work.
Exactly. Researchers can constantly verify its deterministic algorithms. But the true scientific integrity of the software doesn't just come from the code.
Where does it come from?
It comes from the massive data catalogs it uses. Stellarium doesn't guess where stars are, and it doesn't approximate their paths. It uses recognized world-standard datasets.
I see the catalog list here in the sources, and it is dense.
Very dense.
It integrates the Hipparcos catalog. Now, for you listening, think of a star catalog as the most rigorous, peer-reviewed 3D map of the universe ever constructed.
That's a good way to put it.
The report says Hipparcos is the primary source for baseline stellar accuracy and parallax-based distance calculations.
Basically, how far away things are and exactly where they sit in 3D space.
Right. Then there's the Tycho 2 catalog, which enhances the resolution of that map with supplemental high-density stellar data.
It just adds more detail.
Yeah, it even uses the USNO A2.0 and Yukikai C4 catalogs to extend its star count to over 220 million individual objects, plus the NGCIC catalogs for deep sky phenomena, like galaxies and nebulae.
But, having a static 3D map of 220 million objects is computationally meaningless if you want to know what the sky looked like 10,000 years ago, or what it will look like 10,000 years from now.
Because things move.
Exactly. You need a temporally accurate kinematic framework. You need the mathematical rules for how those objects actually move over deep time.
Okay, that makes sense.
This is where the validation report gets extremely technical and completely dismantles the "it's just a software glitch" argument. To maintain coordinate accuracy over millennial timescales, Stellarium employs high-order planetary theories like VSOP-87.
Wait, what exactly is VSOP-87?
It's a mathematical model that calculates the minute gravitational perturbations of planetary orbits.
So like how planets tug on each other.
Yes. When Jupiter moves, its gravity slightly affects Earth. When Saturn moves, it affects Jupiter. VSOP-87 calculates all of these shifting, compounding gravitational poles to ensure long-term stability and accuracy in celestial simulations.
Wow.
It's not a loop. It's a brute force calculation of physical laws. Stellarium also uses 6D astrometry for high-precision 3D modeling of star movement.
And here is the absolute kicker for me, the part that makes this impossible to ignore. The report explicitly states that Stellarium uses the NASA standard JPL DE430 and DE431 ephemerides.
That's the big one.
Right. An ephemeris is basically the ultimate mathematical rulebook for where celestial bodies should be at any given time.
Right.
Stellarium aligns perfectly with the exact same ephemerides used by NASA's own Jet Propulsion Laboratory for navigation and mission planning software.
It's the same math.
Furthermore, it accounts for Earth-based constraints like precession and nutation models, so the Earth wobble, and even atmospheric refraction, the bending of light through the atmosphere based on temperature and pressure.
It leaves nothing to chance. If we connect this back to the bigger picture, the external validation of this software is immense.
Who else uses it?
Well, the report lists its adoption by premier global organizations. The European Space Agency, the ESA, designates Stellarium as a primary educational and modeling tool for its universe modules.
The ESA, wow.
The Ludwig Boltzmann Institute uses its long-term temporal accuracy to reconstruct ancient architectural alignments. Friedrich Schiller University at Jena used its high-order motion models to validate ancient Babylonian star catalogs.
It's everywhere.
Universities ranging from California State University, Los Angeles, to the University of Cincinnati and George Mason University formally approve and utilize it for rigorous research and complex celestial mechanics.
So let me put this into a real-world analogy for everyone listening. If Stellarium is used by the European Space Agency and is literally running NASA's own JPL mathematical models, attacking its math is essentially attacking the math of the space agencies themselves.
That is exactly right.
If you try to say, oh, the software is just wrong, you are arguing with the calculator designed by the exact same people who successfully plotted the trajectory to land a rover inside a specific crater on Mars.
You're picking a fight with the JPL.
Yeah. If that calculator says 2 + 2 is 4, you don't question the calculator. The Stellarium engine is the mainstream map. It is the flawless digital representation of the standard model.
Exactly. We have established the instrument is functioning perfectly according to consensus science. So now we need to understand the actual rules of the road.
What forces are pushing these stars around in the simulation?
Right. According to the standard model, the sky you see tonight is not the sky your ancestors saw, and it is certainly not the sky your descendants will see.
Because everything is moving.
It is governed by three independent compounding motions. We can call them the three pillars of cosmic motion.
Okay, let's walk through these because this is where the chaos of the Big Bang translates into physical reality. The first of these three pillars is continental drift.
Right, the ground itself.
The ground beneath our feet feels solid, but we know it's not static. The tectonic plates are essentially floating on a subterranean ocean of magma crawling across the surface of the Earth.
The sources focus specifically on the African plate for reasons that will become very clear very soon. Our AI documents show that the African plate moves at an average rate of 2.15 centimeters, or about 0.85 inches per year in a general northeast direction.
Now, 2.15 centimeters a year sounds like absolutely nothing. You wouldn't even notice it in a lifetime.
Not at all.
But we are dealing with deep astronomical time here. The AI calculates that over a span of 46,369 years, that tiny 2.15 centimeters a year multiplies out to 99,693.35 centimeters.
Which means in roughly 46,000 years, the African plate will shift approximately 1 kilometer or 0.62 miles relative to its current absolute position.
A whole kilometer.
Yes. So the very geographic coordinates you're standing on, the piece of rock you set your telescope on, will have physically moved.
Think of it like standing on a very, very slow-moving airport walkway. You might be standing still, but your position in the building is fundamentally changing.
Exactly. That is the first motion. The ground itself is crawling.
The second motion is proper motion. This is the idea that the stars themselves are moving.
Right.
We often think of the stars as being painted on a giant glass dome over the Earth, fixed in place forever. But the standard model says no, they are physical objects flying through the massive shrapnel field of space, moving independently of one another.
They are like a swarm of glowing bees flying in completely different directions.
The sources give a brilliant example of this using Polaris, our current North Star.
Yes, the AI documents dissect a very common astronomical oversimplification. You'll often hear people say that because of the Earth's wobble, Polaris returns to the exact same spot above the North Pole every 26,000 years.
I've definitely heard that.
Right. The sources point out that if you strictly follow the math of stellar drift, this is an absolute impossibility. Polaris is not standing still waiting for the Earth to wobble back around to it.
Because it's a bee in the swarm.
Exactly. It has a proper motion of approximately 46 milliarc seconds per year. Over one full 26,000-year cycle, Polaris actually travels roughly 133 degrees entirely across the sky.
The sources show the math on this. By the year 2100 AD, the North Celestial Pole will make its closest approach to Polaris at a distance of about 0.45 degrees.
Right.
But because Polaris has physically moved 0.33 degrees since the last cycle 26,000 years ago, the pole would have passed it at a much larger distance back then, roughly 0.78 degrees.
Every single cycle, this distance grows. The stars are drifting. They are on their own unique linear trajectories, separating further and further apart.
Which brings us to the third and perhaps the most dominant pillar of motion from an earthbound perspective, precession.
The wobble.
Exactly. This is the Earth's axial wobble. Much like a spinning top that begins to slow down, it doesn't just spin perfectly straight up and down. Its axis begins to trace a slow, massive circle.
The Earth does the exact same thing in the heavens.
Right. This wobble shifts our entire viewing angle of the cosmos. The standard great year, or precessional cycle, is accepted by the mainstream as taking approximately 25,772 years to complete one full circular wobble.
So let's put this all together because it is crucial for what comes next.
Let's do it.
You have a crawling tectonic crust acting like a moving walkway, shifting you kilometers away from your starting point. You have flying stars swarming and drifting degrees across the sky on their own independent paths, and you have an entire planet wobbling on its axis, drastically tilting your viewing angle.
That is a lot of motion.
It is. The sources reference a classic Sesame Street song here. One of these things is not like the others, but they use it to make a really profound point about chaos.
Okay, I love this analogy.
If you have three completely independent compounding motions occurring simultaneously at different speeds and in different directions, they create a totally non-repeating sky. No configuration should ever truly repeat.
That is the inescapable logical conclusion of the Standard Model. Because stars move independently of the Earth's wobble, and the ground moves independently of both, each time the precessional circle completes a lap, it finds the stars in entirely different spots, viewed from an entirely different piece of real estate.
Exactly. Our current era is just a rare, fleeting moment where Polaris happens to be exceptionally close to the pole.
It's just a coincidence of timing.
The sources state this clearly. The idea of a 26,000-year return is a geometric concept based on a fictional, static sky. But the drifting stars, the shifting ground, and the wobbling axis ensure that no configuration ever truly repeats.
The sky is an ever-shifting tapestry. It is the ongoing aftermath of the grenade explosion.
That's the mainstream view.
Okay, here is where it gets incredibly tense. Because if the sky is a chaotic, ever-shifting tapestry of shrapnel, then the central bombshell of our source documents absolutely unequivocally should not exist.
No, it shouldn't.
Our sources document a massive software test using Stellarium. They anchored this test at a very specific, highly significant terrestrial point, the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Specifically, latitude 29 degrees, 50 minutes, 44 seconds north.
They locked this exact geographic coordinate into the Stellarium engine, they pointed the virtual camera straight up, and they looked at the Perseus constellation.
Let's talk about why they chose Giza for a moment. It's not arbitrary.
Why Giza?
The Great Pyramid is perhaps the most precisely aligned ancient structure on Earth, oriented to true north with a margin of error of just fractions of a degree.
Right, the engineering is insane.
For centuries, archaeoastronomers have debated its connection to the stars. So anchoring a deep-time celestial simulation to its apex is the ultimate stress test of ancient architectural alignments versus modern astrophysical models.
So they lock in the coordinates, and what they found is referred to in the documents as a relentless pattern.
A relentless pattern.
It is a level of synchronization that is physically, mathematically impossible under the chaotic models we just described.
What did the data show?
The data reveals that 49 unique stars across 4 different constellations hit a perfect 90.0000 degrees zenith, exactly above the Great Pyramid's apex.
We need to pause and define what a zenith actually is and why that number is so critical.
Yeah, please explain that for everyone.
A zenith is the point in the sky directly vertically overhead. Imagine standing at the absolute tip of the Great Pyramid, holding a plumb line, a string with a weight on it.
Okay, I can picture that.
If a star is at a 90-degree zenith, that means the light from that star is traveling straight down that string, perfectly intersecting the apex of the pyramid.
And the precision here is staggering. 90.000 degrees. That is 4 decimal places of precision.
That is basically a dead center, perfectly vertical, laser beam bullseye pointing straight down through the monument.
And it wasn't just one lucky star that happened to pass overhead. The sources call them the 49 witnesses.
The breakdown is mind-blowing.
It really is. The data shows 14 stars of Pegasus hitting this exact vertical line, which the sources say proves a fixed geometric alignment across thousands of years.
Right, 14 just in Pegasus.
There are 6 stars of Andromeda, locking the pyramid's apex to a second major celestial region. There are 5 stars of Cassiopeia, extending this zenith crown deep into the past to the year -4834 BCE.
And then there's Perseus.
And finally, 22 stars of Perseus, providing the highest density of hyper-precise vertical hits.
It is a profound sequence of alignments. But the absolute peak of this data, the most crucial, undeniable focal point that breaks the standard model centers on a specific star system in Perseus.
Which one?
Atik and Menkib, also known as Zeta Persei and 44 Persei.
Okay.
The sources provide the exact, verifiable Stellarium screenshots for this alignment, and the data is unequivocal. They refer to it as the alpha and omega return, or a perfect zero-shift return.
I am looking at these screenshots right now in the documents, and it's just chilling to see the math laid out like this.
What do the screenshots show?
The first screenshot shows the date as January 24 in the year -20,023, so 20,023 BCE. The Julian day, which is the continuous count of days used by astronomers, is listed as 1093.
Okay, got it.
At that exact simulated moment, from the latitude of the Great Pyramid, the azimuth, the compass, direction, and altitude read precisely 227.0164 degrees azimuth and exactly plus 90.0000 degrees altitude.
A perfect dead center zenith.
Yes. And then the researchers let the software run. They pushed the simulation forward through time, processing all the JPL data, all the gravitational perturbations, all the continental drift, and proper motion algorithms.
They just let the clock tick.
Exactly. They run it past the dawn of recorded history, past the Bronze Age, past our modern era, and deep into the future.
Ah.
The second screenshot shows the date August 12 in the year 26,346 AD. Julian day 500-522.
That's a huge jump.
And the coordinate for that exact same star. The azimuth is 264.3955 degrees, but the altitude is exactly 89.9998 degrees.
Which, when you factor in the minute fluctuations of atmospheric refraction modeling, that is functionally a perfect 90.000 degree return.
Let's do the math on that time frame for everyone listening, because it is the crux of the entire argument, from negative 20,023 to positive 26,346.
What's a span?
That is a span of exactly 36,369 years. You wait over 46,000 years, and the star returns to the exact 4 decimal place coordinate above the exact same monument.
This raises an important question, perhaps the most vital question of this entire deep dive.
How is it possible?
How is that mathematically possible under the standard model? Let's apply those 3 pillars of motion we established earlier to this specific 46,369-year time frame.
Okay, let's break it down.
If you waited that long, proper motion dictates that the star itself, flying through space, should have shifted its zenith roughly 13 kilometers away from the apex of the pyramid.
Because it's a moving bee.
Exactly. Continental drift dictates that the African plate should have moved the Great Pyramid itself roughly 1 kilometer away in the opposite direction.
The slow-moving walkway.
And precession, the massive 25,000-year wobble of the Earth's axis, should have shifted the star's zenith by an astonishing 1,507 kilometers.
I have to ask you, the listener, to really visualize this. How can a stumbling, wobbling planet, sitting on a crawling, shifting crust, looking up at a swarm of drifting stars, result in a 90.00 degree laser beam bullseye after nearly 50,000 years?
It's a great question.
Think about the tolerances here. If the ground moved just 1 kilometer, the alignment breaks. If the star drifted just 13 kilometers, the alignment breaks. If the Earth wobbled 1,500 kilometers away, the alignment is completely hilariously shattered.
It would be miles off.
The source document puts it so perfectly. A clumsy side-to-side motion cannot produce 49 consecutive 4 decimal place vertical bullseyes. A real wobble introduces noise that would scatter these stars miles away from the apex.
That is exactly what chaos theory would predict.
For 49 of them to essentially wait their turn to hit the exact same vertical line above a single stone monument is a statistical impossibility in a chaotic universe.
It is an absolute, undeniable impossibility. You cannot have compounding chaotic variables result in perfect, recurring order, and this leads us directly into the realm of formal logic and what the sources describe as a terminal paradox.
Let's get into the paradox.
In philosophy, mathematics, and formal logic, there is a foundational, unbreakable principle known as the law of non-contradiction. It simply states that proposition A and proposition not A cannot both be true at the same time and in the same sense.
So a door cannot be both fully open and fully closed at the exact same moment.
Exactly. It's one or the other.
Right. So let's apply that law to our 46,369-year alignment at the Giza coordinates. Proposition A is that the mainstream scientific models, the 3 pillars of proper motion, precession, and continental drift, are mathematically accurate, physically real, and fundamentally linear as defined by textbooks.
Okay, that's proposition A.
Proposition not A is that the stellarium data, which explicitly claims to use those exact mainstream models, shows a perfect zenith return for 44 Persei at the pyramid after 46,369 years.
The contradiction here is absolute and inescapable.
How so?
If proposition A is true, if the textbook models of a chaotic, drifting, wobbling universe are reality, then the star cannot be at the zenith.
Right, because of the drift.
It physically must be 13 kilometers away due to proper motion and roughly 72 degrees away due to the precessional wobble. Therefore, the Stellarian output would have to be false. It would have to be a broken piece of software.
But we already established it's not broken.
Exactly. If the Stellarium output is true, which the technical validation report from NASA, JPL, and the ESA insists it is because it's running their own flawless code, then the mainstream textbook models of motion and drift must be false because they cannot mathematically produce a zero-shift return at that interval.
You have to choose.
You do.
I really want to drill down into that precession number you just mentioned, because the AI chat logs in our sources specifically highlight this as the precession gap.
The precession gap, yes.
This is the third gear that completely shatters the logic of the mainstream model. Let me use an analogy here for you listening. Imagine two race cars on a circular track.
Okay, car A and car B.
Right. Car A represents the standard 25,772-year precession cycle. Car B represents the 46,369-year zenith alignment cycle. If we take our alignment span of 46,369 years and divide it by the 25,772-year precession cycle, the math gives us 1.799 cycles.
Think about the physical implication of that 1.799 figure. According to the accepted theory of a 25,772-year cycle, after 46,369 years, the Earth's axis has not completed a full second revolution.
Right. It's not at 2.0.
It has done one full lap and is about 80% of the way through its second lap. It should be roughly 0.201 of a circle away from its starting point.
So where does that point the axis?
That equates to the axis pointing roughly 72 degrees away from its starting orientation. To use your race car analogy, car A and car B are not crossing the finish line at the same time. Car A is on the other side of the track.
Yet, the Stellarium software running NASA's algorithms ignores that massive 72-degree gap entirely and shows a perfect 90-degree altitude return.
Which is the paradox.
It makes absolutely no sense. How does the software force the alignment if the math says it should be 72 degrees away? The AI points out that this forces a terrifying new binary choice for astrophysicists.
What's choice?
Option A. The data is right. If the star genuinely returns to the zenith at Giza after 46,369 years, then the 25,772-year precession cycle is a complete fiction.
Right. The accepted wobble cycle is wrong.
The true great year, the actual wobble of the Earth, would have to be a perfect harmonic of 46,369 years for the axis to point back to the exact same spot.
And what's option B?
Option B. The theory is right. If the 25,772-year cycle is real, then Stellarium's math is a lie. The software is actively overruling its own core theories to force an alignment.
That would mean the software claims scientific integrity, but it is outputting a result that mathematically cancels out 3 of its own core theories simultaneously.
Which we know isn't happening because of the validation reports.
And this isn't just a matter of flexible interpretation or saying, well, the universe is complicating.
That's hard math.
The sources include a fascinating argument regarding dictionary definitions to illustrate why we can't just brush this off. When you define a concept in science or language, you establish strict semantic boundaries.
Right. Definitions matter.
The example the AI gives is that a square is defined by Merriam-Webster as a shape having 4 equal sides and 4 right angles. These are not suggestions. They are the criteria, the differentiae that prevent a square from being interpreted as a triangle or a circle.
Dictionaries include sentence examples to anchor the meaning so people don't just interpret words however they want to fit their current argument.
Precisely.
The American Heritage Dictionary actually notes its goal is to provide precise definitions. Because if a definition is flexible, it's completely useless for helping two people understand the exact same thing.
Right, communication breaks down.
If I point to a triangle and call it a square, I am not utilizing the beautiful flexibility of language. I am just fundamentally misusing the word. I am wrong.
Exactly. And just as semantics have strict boundaries, mathematics is entirely inflexible. The AI source states a profound realization. We are layering a linear assumption over cyclical data.
Let's unpack that sentence.
The math of Stellarium, the raw processing of JPL's ephemerides, creates a perfect loop, a closed system of eternal return.
The 46,000-year cycle.
Yes. The textbooks, however, describe a straight line of chaotic separation, the grenade shrapnel. You cannot layer the linear assumption over the cyclical data. You have to trust the math. The loop, not the textbook, the line.
Okay, let's take a deep breath here. We have covered a monumental amount of ground, and the tension between the data and the theory is at a breaking point.
It is a lot to take in.
We've gone from the unfathomable 10 to the 54th power mass of the Big Bang to the rigid, peer-reviewed validation of the Stellarium engine.
And the 3 pillars.
We've looked at the 3 pillars of standard cosmic motion, the drift, the swarm, and the wobble, and we've watched them shatter against the impenetrable wall of 49 impossible star alignments over the Great Pyramid.
The 49 witnesses.
We've explored the mathematical paradox where the software literally contradicts its own underlying theories to show a perfect loop. So, what does this all mean?
Where does it lead us?
Let's bring this all the way home to the core focus of our deep dive. The death of the Big Bang Theory.
The conclusion drawn by the AI analysis in our sources relies on the most fundamental law of physics, logic, and reality itself: cause and effect.
Cause and effect.
You cannot have an effect without a preceding cause. In the AI logs we are reviewing, the user asks the AI a very direct, loaded question. Is the motion of precession and proper motion a direct result of the Big Bang?
And what did it say?
The AI unequivocally, definitively answers yes.
I'm reading the AI's exact response right now, and it leaves no wiggle room. According to the standard model of cosmology, they are direct results. Without the Big Bang, there is no matter to move, no energy to drive that movement, and no space-time for gravity to exist in.
It's all connected.
The AI breaks it down even further to ensure there's no misunderstanding. Proper motion, the swarming of the stars, is the direct physical result of the initial chaotic distribution of matter and energy that formed galaxies and set stars on their individual linear paths outward.
And precession.
Precession, the Earth's wobble, is the direct result of the gravitational forces and angular momentum that were established when matter first aggressively clumped together after the explosion.
The AI concludes that in the current consensus model of the universe, you cannot separate the motion from the origin. You cannot have the chaotic effect without the explosive cause.
But the terminal paradox we just established over the skies of Giza proves that those effects, the stumble of precession, the chaotic drift of proper motion, the crawling of continental drift, do not actually exist in the way we've been taught.
They can't.
If they existed as linear chaotic forces, the 46,369-year zero-shift return would be physically, mathematically impossible.
And here's the logical collapse. This is how the theory dies.
Walk us through it.
If the predicted physical effects, the stumble and the drift, are mathematically proven to be absent in a zero-shift return, then the alleged cause, the Big Bang's outward expansion and chaotic motion, has absolutely no foundation.
The law of cause and effect mandates that since the chaotic effect does not exist, the chaotic cause cannot exist.
Right.
Therefore, as the source text boldly and controversially claims, the Big Bang is effectively a big bomb, a theory entirely diffused and dismantled by NASA's own mathematical algorithms running inside Stellarium.
It ultimately comes down to a philosophical concept: the map versus the territory.
I love this concept. Explain it for us.
For roughly a century, the mainstream scientific map has claimed linear chaos. It has painted a picture of a universe defined by entropy, decay, and infinite separation, where things are never meant to return.
It's a terrifying, lonely map, frankly.
It is. But the observed territory, the actual hard data processed by our most advanced computational engines, shows cyclical order.
It shows stability, rhythm, profound connection, and the eternal return.
We have seen paradigm shifts like this before. Think of the transition from the geocentric model, where everyone knew the Earth was the center of everything, to the heliocentric model.
The math got too complicated to support the old map, so the map had to change to reflect the territory.
Exactly. The map was wrong.
The sources use this incredible ancient visual to represent this territory. The Ouroboros, the symbol of the snake eating its own tail.
It is one of the oldest mythological symbols in human history.
And now the math is validating it. The observed drift of the stars is not infinite separation. It is merely the long, slow, imperceptible curve of a return journey.
Like a wheel.
If one gear in a clock spins 360 degrees, it might look like it's moving away from its starting point for a while, but eventually the whole clock is rotary. It returns.
Right.
The universe doesn't look like grenade shrapnel. It looks like a wheel.
Those 49 independent star alignments act as the ultimate mathematical evidence. By documenting these unique stars across Pegasus, Andromeda, Cassiopeia, and Perseus, hitting a perfect 90.00000 degrees zenith above a specific geographic anchor, the data reveals a level of synchronization that simply obliterates the consensus models of chaos.
The infinite vacuum, the chaotic tilt, and the random wobble are exposed as linear fables layered over a cyclical reality we haven't fully accepted yet.
It proves mathematically that we are not living in the chaotic aftermath of a staggering random explosion.
The data reveals that the universe is a static, perfectly geared, hypersynchronized clockwork machine. And perhaps the most haunting part of this entire deep dive.
What's that?
This unimaginably massive machine, spanning millions of light years and billions of stars, is mathematically anchored to a single, non-moving terrestrial point. the apex of the Great Pyramid of Giza.
It is a profound paradigm shift that challenges the core of our modern scientific identity. We have to confront the reality that the math does not change, only human assumption changes.
What an unbelievable journey we have just taken. We started by trying to comprehend 3.1 octodecillion kilograms of matter exploding into a void.
Such a massive number.
We tested the rigorous precision of the Stellarium engine, verifying its pedigree with the world's leading space agencies. We stood at the exact coordinates of the Great Pyramid and watched 49 stars over 50,000 years perform an impossible, mathematically perfect zero-shift dance.
The math just doesn't lie.
We navigated the terminal paradox, where software overrules its own foundational theories, leading us to the logical collapse of the Big Bang through the simple, unbreakable law of cause and effect.
But as we close this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final, lingering thought to ponder.
Oh, please do.
If we accept the mathematical proof presented in these sources, if the universe is not a random explosion of flying shrapnel, but rather a perfectly calibrated, non-moving clock with gears spanning millions of light years, all synchronized precisely to a single stone monument on Earth.
Wait, I said no ellipses.
Let me restart that. If we accept the mathematical proof presented in these sources, if the universe is not a random explosion of flying shrapnel, but rather a perfectly calibrated, non-moving clock with gears spanning millions of light years, all synchronized precisely to a single stone monument on Earth,
Okay.
then who or what wound the clock, and why, of all the places in the infinite expanse of the cosmos, did they choose to place the exact center of the cosmic dial in Egypt?
That is the question that will keep you awake at night. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
Keep questioning the map and always trust the territory. Because the next time you look up at the night sky, remember, you aren't looking at the scattered, chaotic debris of a shattered grandfather clock. You're watching the flawless, intentional turning of the gears. Watch the circle. We are on the return journey.